Soldiers, prepare for war with China. Unfortunately, the United States of America is sliding inexorably into a war with China on two fronts. That first front, unfortunately, will be militarily, but what will precede that is an economic war, which we are seeing the signs of right now. Okay, and it's going to get bad for us. And one of the reasons why it's going to get so bad for us is because we are so reliant on the rest of the world. Now, in terms of exports, what do we do for the rest of the world? Well, our chief exports are petroleum products and cars. Okay, we do some integrated circuit business as well, but we're even trying to tamp down on petroleum products because we've gone absolutely wild over environmentalism. Okay, mind you, oil is produced by the earth. No one ever talks about that, but our main exports, our economic exports, are petroleum products, crude oil. This is something that we are shooting ourselves in the foot over. So we're handicapping ourselves on that front. What else do we export to the rest of the world? Well, a poisonous culture. Okay, we definitely do that. And war. We do that very well. But other than that, we don't do what China does. China exports a lot of pharmaceuticals that we import from them. We went through this in a previous report and showed you how we're totally reliant on China right now for important pharmaceuticals like penicillin, okay, like acetaminophen, Tylenol. So we're the ones that stand to lose a lot if China starts to think in a retaliatory fashion and restrict some of these very important exports that they're sending out that we're importing. Everybody always thinks about the stuff in Walmart when they think of China's products that they provide to us. But no, it gets much more deep and important than just that. And also remember that Taiwan is the producer par excellence of silicon chips that power our modern computerized society. So we are sliding into this war. We have a lot to lose. We're not in a position where, what are we going to say? Oh, we're not going to send you any more Netflix. We did that with Russia. Okay. And I think Russia's better off without it. What are they, what are they going to leave Ukraine because they can't get a sick show like Cuties anymore in Russia? Right. So here's what's going on now. This balloon issue, a lot of people are saying, well, if it was a surveillance balloon, then China could have got the same type of information, maybe even much more, from their spy satellites. But you know what China can't get from a spy satellite? They can't get a read on the reaction, the real-time reaction from the president and our military of an adversary physically invading our airspace. Okay? They can't get a read on that. That balloon accomplished just that and showed them exactly what we would do, which is nothing. We'll let the balloon traverse, damn near bisected the entire country, okay? Flew over several states, and, then once, it had done whatever the hell it came to do, then it was destroyed off the coast of the Carolinas in the Atlantic Ocean. Why we couldn't destroy it when it was in the Aleutian Islands, for example. Didn't we know that it was there? I had an acquaintance try to tell me, and I hope he's listening to this, and I stress the word acquaintance, try to tell me that, well, it's slow moving, and because of that, it's different in terms of detection. Yeah, we spend 8 times more we spend more than the next 8 countries combined on military allotments. And you are telling me that we were unable to detect a device that was invented in the 18th century? Okay, 18th, 19th century? All right. Yeah, I call bullshit on that. I don't know what's going on with the military. They seem to be much more interested in pronouns and, being woke and producing woke recruiting commercials than they are in actually protecting the citizens of this nation. If that balloon had been a little bit lower, the American citizens would have been able to take it out, and that's exactly what would have happened. So let's look at this inexorable slide toward war, because you need to get ready for this, because it's going to happen. We had the Air Force General Minahan last week, and we did the report on it, say, hey, look, we're going to war by 2025, and he issued orders consistent with that to his troops to prepare for such. Incidentally, to show you what's going on, some of the disturbing things that are going on in the United States military right now. And I don't want anybody coming on here talking, well, you can't criticize them. Yes, I can. We still live in America. Okay, I can criticize any aspect of this government, and I will criticize the U.S. military for a lack of discipline, because you've got officers under the command of General Minahan talking to the press and saying that Minahan's actions were inappropriate. Since when have officers in the U.S. military actively serving come out and publicly criticize their commanding officers? There's something just not right going on here. And China is in a position to take advantage of it. So let's get started on looking at the two fronts of this war. Number one, economic. We're going to lose economic hegemony throughout the world because, as we showed you in a previous report, I think it was last week, we'll tag it, you can go back and watch it. Saudi Arabia, who made the deal with us many decades ago to denominate oil sales, global oil sales, in dollars, now they are saying, well, what we're going to do is we're going to diversify that. We're going to accept oil sales in other currencies. Listen, this was announced at the World Economic Forum's annual meeting at Davos. This is a big deal. It was put forth before the world.
Let's just pivot quickly back to China, because Xi visited Saudi Arabia, red carpet was rolled out. Was there a discussion around paying for oil in yuan? Fill or kill on this rumor?
Okay. Two things. One is we enjoy a very strategic relationship with China, and we enjoy that same strategic relationship with other nations, including the US, and we wanted to develop that with Europe and other countries who are willing and able to work with us to advance the public good in the world.
Yes.
I think with regard to China, they are the largest trading partner with Saudi Arabia. I think there are no issues with discussing how we settle our trade arrangements, whether it is the US dollar, whether it is the euro, whether it is the Saudi riyal or their currency.
There was no discussion on that at all?
I don't think we are waving away or ruling out any discussion that will help improve the trade around the world.
Okay, so that minister told you exactly what they're going to be doing. This was not off the cuff. This was a well-prepared statement in a planned interview. All right, guys like that, you're not going to catch him speaking extemporaneously. All right, so that's the economic piece. A lot of people want to hide their head in the sand, and they do not want to believe that the dollar's day in the sun is coming to an end. Listen, we've got $31 trillion worth of debt, not counting unfunded liabilities like Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. The British lost reserve currency status in the early 20th century with a lot less debt than that, a whole lot less. So our day is coming, and it will be precipitated. The only thing that was keeping us endowed with the ability to hold on to the reserve currency, no matter how much profligate spending we engaged in, was the fact that oil sales were still denominated in dollars. Okay, but you heard the minister say that's going to change here soon. They're going to diversify that. And why are they going to do that? Because the United States went heavy-handed with Russia and started to sanction any and everything along with NATO, the European Union rather, sanction this, sanction that. And it sent a signal to other countries that, hey, if they're doing it to them, they can certainly do it to us. So one way to curtail American foreign policy power is to take away their economic power. That's going to change life for us, ladies and gentlemen. Now, from Zero Hedge, you probably know the Chinese spy balloon was allowed to traverse the entire United States despite us knowing about it days ago. has been shot down. And you might say, well, it didn't go over the entire United States. No, it didn't have to, because the altitude that it was sitting in, it could see the entire United States. Now, again, it may not have been the absolute most sophisticated technology on that balloon, but that balloon proved to the Chinese and to the world that the current occupant of 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, the White House, is not willing to act decisively. Now, what do you think would have happened if a balloon emblazoned with the American flag had, well, it would have never appeared over the skies of Beijing, because they would have blown it to smithereens long before it got, into their territory. So now China and Russia and everybody else, they have an indication of our reluctance to secure our own airspace. Okay, think about that. If the deployment of the balloon was to see how we'd react, they definitely have an answer. We acted slowly. We acted in an uncertain fashion. And isn't that what typifies? Those are the characteristics that typify our president, Joe Biden. He's slow. He's, bumbling, stumbling, and most of all, he's uncertain. This proves it. Now, again, I think the main purpose of the balloon was to see how we'd react. But if it did have some sort of, capability to gather intelligence, it was allowed to do so. Probably for a much longer period of time than the Chinese anticipated. Now, here's something very important and something that I have a little bit of experience in. You probably have heard about the EMP, or electromagnetic pulse. It's initiated when a nuclear device is detonated at very high altitude. Now, initially, that doesn't kill any life for the people beneath that blast radius, all right? But it sends out a wave that fries every circuit in the diameter of, this region, okay? Everywhere that this EMP reaches, it fries the circuits. The higher up you go, the wider an area you can cover. Now, that wouldn't kill anybody immediately, but imagine this. Everybody with a pacemaker, toast. Dialysis patients out of here within a week and a half. Fallout would be tremendous, because electrical, telecommunication, banking, transportation, all that would be offline. It is projected that 90% of the United States population would die in the first year after such an event. Now, if that happened, the economy is the least of your worries, but let's take it to the furthest extent. That'd basically be an empty country for somebody to be able to come and occupy. All of the infrastructure in terms of buildings and, waterworks and things like that would just have to be restarted, but it would be here, okay? So there is some speculation that this high altitude balloon could be a key delivery platform for secret nuclear strikes on America's electric grid. Now, look, this EMP thing has been out there for many, many years. This is nothing new. This is not sci-fi. It is a real phenomenon that is generated when a nuclear device is detonated. And there are some reports that there are two more balloons. One's over Latin America. I don't know where the other one is right now. Canada, I believe. They did report that they had another one coming in. So what is this all about? There are two other active balloons. We'll get into that in just a second. There are reports, these came in recently, that the balloons were maneuverable, ostensibly meaning the balloon had been redirected on its path. Now, Biden's reputation, look, he started out with getting us run out of Afghanistan on a rail, okay? And the hits just keep on coming. This guy is the most humiliating commander-in-chief that we have seen ever in the history of the United States of America. This tops us being run out of, the incident in Benghazi. It was a tragic incident, but Biden just keeps on getting into this type of trouble, because I don't know if the guy even is able to wake up before 11 a.m. They probably try to get him up around that time, and it takes an hour or so to have him even remember he is the president of the United States of America. And yes, I'm pissed off about this, because it has sent a signal to the entire world of how weak we are. Now, China is preparing for war economically. You got to understand that from a monetary and financial perspective, they are doing things like buying, literal tons of gold. They're stockpiling it. They're selling U.S. treasuries, okay? So you could say they're readying for war or to challenge the United States dollar on the global stage, probably both of those things. China recently bought 100 tons of gold in a matter of days. All right, think about that. And they're selling the treasuries. Russia, U.S. treasuries. Russia and China openly announced a new global reserve currency back in July of 2022. People laughed at it, okay? All right. Well, you won't be laughing soon if they get their way. Of course, Russia and China can't do it on their own, and that's why we talked to you earlier about Saudi Arabia and their role in this. They get to decide what currency they denominate their oil exports in. So crucial to dethroning the U.S. dollar would be the removal of its use for buying and selling oil, a system that has been in place since the 70s when the U.S. promised Saudi Arabia security in exchange for the petrodollar system that underpins the dollar's strength as a global reserve currency. Saudi Arabia looks like it has ended the petrodollar based on what that minister said in the Davos conference, at the Davos conference. All right, and in the midst of all this, China has repeatedly started to ramp up this idea that they want to reintegrate Taiwan. Taiwan is a major exporter of the silicon chips that the world needs. That would come under Chinese dominance, and China would control a major sector of the global economy if they were to take Taiwan. All right, so what can you do? Well, it's time to start preparing. And by preparing, I mean preparing. I'm not talking about putting some canned goods in your pantry. I'm talking about talking with like-minded individuals, looking at systems that you can put in place to share resources, like land, for example. Maybe you have the type of family that you could cooperatively work with on your own piece of land where you guys can produce food, have clean drinking water, and be able to thrive a situation in which America is diminished economically. Now, just like when I always talk about how the dollar is going to, meet its end and is no longer going to be the reserve currency by the mid-2030s. Okay, everything that I kind of situate my life and my family's life to do is to have us prosper regardless. So even if that doesn't occur, we're still in a position where we have acquired assets that are going to make us more independent. So start to think about these things. Start to think about, and we'll cover more of how the world will change post-war with China, right? But the United States military is obviously preparing for it. You did have Lloyd Austin, the Secretary of Defense, come out and kind of backtrack on General Minahan's statements about preparing for war, but Minahan's information was leaked. So I guess Austin is in a position where he has to do that because we want to play both sides. Also, understand that Anthony Blinken, the Secretary of State, canceled his trip to meet with Xi Jinping, I think it was next week, because of the whole balloon thing. So the tensions are escalating, people. Start to think about how you can control more aspects of your life and continue to prosper. Look, if one thing is for sure, if you're sitting out there with just one stream of income, you are in a precarious position. You better start building more streams of income. Now, we got this report we did where we talked a little bit about that. We'll be talking more about it. War is coming. Hopefully, it will not be a war that ends lives, but the economic war, that shooting has already started with China and Saudi Arabia doing what they're doing, and with the fact that they're also selling treasuries and buying gold. Watch this report we did on other sources of income that you can pursue to build a multiple stream of income for you and your family, and start to look around, see if there's some land that you can, farm on. It's a big task. You got to do a lot of research. Okay. You got to make sure that it has, a well for self-sufficiency. Try to go a few days in your house without electricity to train your family about how to do this. Look, I might sound crazy and this might not be the type of material for you, but it's going to happen regardless of what you think. These actions are taking place as we speak. Watch that report, guys, and I'll talk to you soon.